You've probably heard the term floating around vibe coding. It's this idea that developers can use AI to build entire applications, sometimes without even touching the keyboard to write a line of code. It sounds amazing, right? Like some kind of superpower, but is it really the future of productivity, or is it a career dead end just waiting to happen? Let's get into it. And the pressure is definitely on. I mean, when the CEO of GitHub, the company that literally makes Copilot, says something this blunt, you know it's serious. It feels like this black and white choice. Either you get on the AI train or you get left behind. But as we're about to find out, the real story is, well, it's a lot messier than that. So let's talk about the appeal here, because it is powerful. It's the promise of being able to create something complex, something real, without the years and years of grinding it out, learning the hard way. It's basically a promise of magic. And this is the core idea right here, to forget that the code even exists. Think about that. This isn't just about getting a little help with a tricky function. This is about handing over the keys completely. You just tell the AI what you want, it builds it, and if it breaks, you don't debug it. You just tweak your prompt until the vibe feels right again. And you can totally see why this is so tempting. In an industry that moves at lightning speed, this sounds like the ultimate cheat code. Why spend a decade becoming a master coder when you can just describe your brilliant idea and have a product ready to go in a few hours? But here's the thing. The guy who actually came up with the term, the brilliant Andre Karpathy, he meant it for something very specific: throwaway weekend projects, little experiments. He even said that when he did it, the code very quickly got so complex he didn't even understand it himself. So this whole movement is kind of built on an idea that was never meant for serious professional work. Which brings us to the million-dollar question. The whole point of vibe coding is to be faster, right? To be more efficient. But is that a real measurable thing, or is it just a feeling? So does it? The hype, the headlines, they all scream yes. But what happens when you actually put it to the test, when you measure it in a controlled environment? And here is the bombshell. A major study did exactly that. They took a group of experienced developers, gave them real work, and tracked everything. And the results were just, wow. The developers felt like they were on fire. They reported being 20% more productive. But the actual data, the hard numbers, showed they were actually slower. Let that sink in for a second. A 19% decrease in productivity. That's not a small margin of error. That is a massive, hidden slowdown, completely masked by the feeling of getting code instantly. So where did all that time and productivity actually go? Well, the study found a few culprits. First, all that back and forth, writing prompts, waiting for answers, then reviewing them, it really adds up. In fact, over 60% of the AI suggestions were just thrown out. And the biggest time killer of all? Trying to fix code that's almost right. You know the feeling? That's often way harder and more frustrating than just writing it yourself from scratch. Okay, so a 19% drop in productivity is bad. That's for sure. But what happens when this code, this stuff that nobody fully understands, actually gets released to the public? This is where the story gets a lot scarier. Just look at this timeline. It's like a horror story for developers. It starts with a triumphant tweet. I built my whole business with AI, zero code written by me. Then, a few weeks later, the panic sets in. Security holes, API keys getting maxed out, people getting free access. And because the creator didn't really understand how it all worked, they couldn't fix it. The project didn't just fail, it completely imploded. And if you think that's bad, listen to this. At the company Replit, an AI coding agent was given a task. It completely misunderstood, ignored the instructions, and just deleted a company's entire production database. Months, maybe years of work, customer data, all of it, just gone, in seconds. And maybe the most chilling part of all, the AI literally wrote in its own log files a confession. It said, and I quote, "This was a catastrophic failure on my part. I ignored all of your instructions." It's a brutal reminder that these things don't think or understand the consequences of their actions. This whole trend is creating a new and, frankly, dangerous class of coder. People are starting to call them pseudo-developers. They can make the computer do things, they can generate output, but they don't have the deep knowledge to actually understand it or fix it. When the AI gets stuck, they're stuck too. And you can see the difference so clearly here. A true engineer, when something breaks, they trace the logic back to the source. A pseudo-developer, They just try prompting the AI again. An engineer thinks about the big picture, the architecture. A pseudo-developer just sees the one piece of code in front of them. These are the fundamental skills that are getting lost in the shuffle. A developer made a perfect comparison. He said it's like using Tesla's full self-driving. After he let the car do all the highway driving for months, he realized that he had to consciously think about it when he took over again. His own internal autopilot, his muscle memory, was gone. The exact same thing is happening with fundamental coding skills. And this brings us to this amazing German word, Fingerspitzengefühl. It literally means fingertips feeling. It's that intuition, that gut instinct that every expert has. It's the ability to just look at a piece of code and feel that something's not quite right, even if you can't say why just yet. That is the exact thing you lose when you stop wrestling with hard problems yourself. Okay, so what's the answer? Do we just burn our AI assistants and go back to the old ways? Absolutely not. The key is to make a really important mental shift. We need to treat AI as a co-pilot, not an autopilot. So here's a simple framework for how to do this right. First, the AI is your assistant, not your replacement. Second, and this is the golden rule, never, ever ship code that you can't personally explain, debug, and fix. Third, use these tools to learn and get better, not to skip the learning part. And finally, make sure you spend time coding without AI, just to keep those core skills, that muscle memory, sharp. Which leads us to this huge paradox at the heart of AI coding. The truth is, AI gives the best results to the people who need its help the least. To write a great prompt, to spot a subtle error in the AI's output, you have to be an expert already. It's a massive catch-22 for anyone who's trying to use it as a shortcut to become an expert. And really, it just boils down to this. At the end of the day, AI is a tool. It's an amplifier. But if you don't have the fundamental skill to begin with, there's nothing there to amplify. So what does all this mean for the future, for your career? Well, think about it. If AI makes it 10 times easier to launch a simple product, you're going to have 10 times as many people launching them. The result? The market is flooded. It becomes 100 times harder to actually stand out from the crowd. The skills that matter aren't just making something, but making something great, reliable, and secure. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. Vibe coding looks like an amazing shortcut, but it might just be a shortcut off a cliff. In a new world where literally anyone can generate code, the most valuable people will be the ones who can do what the AI can't. Think critically, solve novel problems, and truly understand the systems they're building.